Well, check this out. I'm learning a new trick. Recording? Says it is. Actually, using the camera on the laptop. So this should save time for me and cut my time in half because normally I have to load the SD card into the laptop after using my camera. Bit of a different angle there too, isn't it? Should put more cool stuff on the wall in there. All right, let's see how this goes. Hopefully my audio is nice and crisp. Now, it's a new day. Day after one of my epic rants, which I should have even ranted longer about, right? Where's the camera? It's right there. Gotta look up there. All right. Now, what do we got? Who do we got? We got a lot. Again, if you're not protecting your children, you are a low-life pussy, just so you know. I'll start off with that one. Now, landslide. A lot of people have questioned me and sent text messages. Oh my God, what's going on with the river blockage in British Columbia? Are you all going to be all right? Other people just want to hear what I think about it. What do I think about there's a big landslide that blocked a river, the Chilcolton River in British Columbia, and the news outlets jumped on it like it's a great big opportunity for a big news scoop. We get to take a helicopter and everything. Meanwhile, it's nothing. It's nothing. I laughed at it from the very first second I saw it. There's going to be enormous flooding. Everybody's getting evacuated. It's full on danger. It's horrifying. No, it's not. You imagine how many landslides have hit these river systems since they began. I don't know, what? 100,000 of them? Right? It's no different than us being kids and making a little sand trough, blocking something off, and then filling up with water. And what happens? The water rises up, cuts through the top of the sand, slowly makes the river, the drain, bigger and bigger and bigger till it all washes out again. No big deal. Oh, but then there's a big debris field. There's a whole bunch of logs. No shit, really? I think that happens every fall when it floods, right? And it did. And the logs went by, and it was nothing. So there you go. That's why I didn't mention it. No concern to me. As long as you know exactly how it works, no big deal. All it was is a big scoop opportunity for the low lives that work at the mainstream news outlets. That's all she wrote. Now, what do we have? We had the guy write in yesterday. Deer hunting. What's it titled? Sasquatch's Vancouver Island Part 2 and 3 or something like that. So I did a search for his name in case I missed some, and I think I found some, and I found some pictures. And I put them in here, so let's have a look. This is titled Sasquatches of Vancouver Island. This might have been the original one. See how it goes here. Here's a little about me. I've been hunting and fishing since I was 5 years old. I'm 57 now, and it's time I tell my story. I call this the Ward Lake story. In Sprout Lake is where I grew up, and here's how it goes. Right up the road. Well, I was 17 years old, and I grew up right at Tall Timbers at Sprout Lake. And there was a lake across the highway called Ward Lake. So my best friend used to come up every weekend, and we would go to the bush shooting squirrels and stuff, and do a little bit of trout fishing. Well, he came up one weekend, and we thought we would go into Ward Lake doing some fishing, and we brought a little Kiwi 22 with us. I think he meant Kui probably. Well, the lake was probably about a 2-mile walk from the highway, and as we were walking the trail, we always noticed that the limbs are about 8 or 9 feet were always snapped off and hanging. Okay, I read this email, but I'm going to continue through because there's a couple other ones attached. All right, you guys? Yeah, it's right up the road from my house. As we got to the lake, we noticed how quiet it was. Dead quiet. Not a sound. Within a few minutes, we could hear it sound like a 2x4 broken over a man's knee echo across the little lake, which was kind of freaky for sure. Though we kept on. We thought we were just fish. Well, we caught a few trout. I think you meant we thought we were just fishing. Well, we caught a few trout, and they're all cutthroat in there. And we just felt like we were being watched. So we went back to camp. We set up our tent. We wrapped our trout in tinfoil, put them in the pack sack. We cooked a couple up. Then we just went and climbed in our sleeping bags, and as we laid there and chatted, all of a sudden, we heard another big snap on the other side of the lake. And just before that, you could hear thousands of frogs. And as soon as that snap happened, they stopped dead quiet. Not a sound anywhere. It's kind of freaky. I must say, as a 17-year-old boy, having laying there, just freaked right out. As we lay there, we could hear the trees snapping, coming closer and closer, coming across the lake. And there was no sound, but just trees crashing. It's very terrifying for sure, as this thing was coming closer to us as we lay there quiet and shaking in fear. I didn't read this. And then it got really quiet. We couldn't hear any snapping at the time, but soon we could hear it like it sounded like a mouse was scratching at the tent. Then it sounded like rocks smashing the lake all around us. We could hear splashing going on, and it was like 15 to 20 feet away from us at the time. We sat there in fear until the sun came up, and then we made a break for it as we grabbed our tent and our pack, and we're running up the trail about a mile. We noticed our tin foil of fish was gone. And about a mile up, the tinfoil was laying right in the middle of the trail. And everybody knows if that was a bear, that would never happen, or a raccoon. It was unwrapped perfectly, without even a toe mark on it. And there's a tree across our trail that wasn't there before. On the way back, anyway, I'm not a very good writer. This is the best I can tell you on this story. Thanks for listening, Steve. And I have a lot more stories, but I'm just not a good writer. That's okay, man. You did fine. You can use my name, Leon Poirier. Steve, this part is just for you. Okay? Okay, remember that. Okay, I got some photos, but you had these in the part that said it's just for me, and they are some odd photos. But wait until you get back to me about sharing them, all right? Now, there's another email attached from him. I just want to make sure that everybody gets heard, in if there's a few emails, they might all be linked up, and it'll make sense getting them heard all in one go, right? The first picture, you have to turn it. It's picking apples. You can see the wrist and the hand, and that's no bear. My uncle Rennie Mountain Man skinned 1,000 bears and said that's no bear. On that second picture I took, that I went to do video and took what picture. The second one, what it is, a fern across the face of a female Sasquatch. She had a juvenile there and she's laying on the ground. And that's the picture. All right. They are very confusing pictures. All right, we'll get back to that. Next email. Sasquatch Vancouver Island Part 2. Well, it was 2010, the last day of hunting season. Me and a buddy are bow hunters, and we were hunting in the Nanoose Bay on 100 acres of big timber. I was kind of excited that day because I got myself a new bow. It was a Browning Illusion compound bow, 330 feet per second. Pretty good for those days. I had my tree stand beside a big swamp and big timber. Well, I got to my tree stand in the evening, probably 2 hours before dark, and I sat for a while, and it was pretty quiet, nothing moving. Then in the distance, I could hear it sounded like footsteps, big footsteps, and I thought it was just a big bear coming my way, so I sat there listening as this thing came closer. I could tell it was on 2 legs. I was starting to get pretty scared, let me tell you, Steve. This thing walked in at about 30 yards away. I'm trying to get a look at this thing, and I'm moving around and I'm looking, and I could see part of the right side of the chest. It was totally black, and this thing was big. It was on 2 legs. It had to be 8 feet. I could see, like I said, part of the chest. I knew it was no bear, and I just totally lost it. Somehow I think it just knew I was there because it didn't give me direct, I couldn't see it perfectly. It stayed there for a few minutes moving around and then started walking off. And it was so loud, it was crazy. I was absolutely terrified. I took my $1,200 bow that I just bought, threw it out of the tree, and jumped down, almost broke my ankle. As I was terrified, I ran out to the wall to the old cut road. Probably meant the tree line to the old cut road. I'm at my buddy. I never said a word to him all the way home. I said, we gotta go. I just started walking towards the truck. It was already getting dark at the time. Anyway, as soon as I got home, I called my uncle Rennie Mountain Man, and I told him what had happened. And in the morning, he was there at 7. So we went there looking for tracks, and within 15, 20 minutes, my uncle found a set of tracks, 2 tracks exactly, but it was raining heavy, and they were covered with water, so I couldn't get a plaster Paris track. You know what I mean. The 2 tracks were about 5 to 5 feet apart in a straight line. I did a video recording on the old video camera, and now I don't have those pictures no more. As we were looking for more evidence, my uncle said, we'll just go up in this gully. So as we were hiking up the gully, we got almost to the top, and then we heard the deepest growling you've ever heard. I turned and ran. And as I started to run, my uncle grabbed me and said, no. I was terrified. I basically begged my uncle if we could leave because I just couldn't handle it. I was just too much of a wimp. I was just too scared. I'm not like him. Well, thanks for reading my stories, Steve, and I have a lot more of them. You can use my name, Leon Poirier. This part's just for you. I'm the guy. All right, man. Gotcha. And I think I did read that too. But anyways, I did that search yesterday after your email, found a bunch from you, and I read them all in a row. And if you have any more information of what you found at Tacoma, what you mentioned at the bottom, get a hold of it. So let me know what happened to that. So a lot of people here would be interested in hearing what you got, or even to see or whatever, the story behind it. Appreciate you sending that in, man. You got a whole bunch more? Send a whole bunch more to me. Especially because it's right in my backyard, right? Just up from where you were in the news, there's another lake. I forget the name of the lake, and I told this a long time ago before on here. I don't know how long ago, but there was a conservation officer, a game warden, who knew his son. His son told me flat out that they were up at that lake on that side of the highway, which would be the east side of the island highway, where everybody goes, what? Really? Sasquatch sightings on that side of the highway? Pretty sure they don't have a border. But anyway, they're at this small lake. They got the conservation officer truck stuck in the mud, couldn't get out of there, and something started roaring at them from across the lake. And it was absolutely terrifying, he said. And his dad just said, get the 30-06 out of the truck to my friend, his son. And they were there for quite some time, and they just kept on hearing the roars. And he also said there's some totems right around that lake depicting these people. There you go. Lost from the island. This is titled Forest People True Identity ? Steve, read from here on. It should only take 4 minutes. I don't have a timer. We're good. Back in the late 70s, a friend who was going for his D license in skydiving rented a pool privately for 3 hours to practice being in the water with a parachute spread over his head to practice being able to untangle himself. Another friend was in the pool with a scuba tank on. When Dave came out, except for his bathing trunks on, he was covered in hair over his whole body. Huh? Explained he was only one in family that had this condition since birth. Never had Jim, and his mom and dad had to shave his face, neck, and wrist, and back of hands before he could go out. Asked him how long the hair would grow, and he was not sure. One summer at his grandfather's farm, he was there for the whole summer, and after 2 months, hair over his whole body had grown to 3.5 inches long. Seems Dave was the only one in the family that had something called congenital generalized hypertrichosis, which causes abnormal hair growth on his body. When older, Dave started having electrolysis done, face, neck, back, and hands, and lower legs and top of feet. I figured at some point he would be hairless and be able to go to the beach looking like everyone else. Now, Dave would be considered a freak from cruel humans, even in the 70s. Excuse me, how would they think of him back during the time of Cain and Abel? Forced to live by themselves out in the jungles or forests, eating what they could catch, meat or fish. Interbreeding caused more to be born with this condition. Eating off the land, such as berries and nuts, no processed food, only clean water, their immune systems would be off the charts. Steve, put aside your fear of these people. Trust me, they could easily run you down while cloaked or enter your house while asleep. If they wanted to harm you, they could. So have they? Of course not, as they are not the killers that roam the BC bush preying on humans. That would be the dog men, which should be put down with a headshot. 4 encounters with these people while living in southern Ontario, and they have protected me 3 times. Even once being held in their arms during a snowstorm to keep me warm when I was lost in the bush at a young age. After we moved to northern Ontario 2 years ago, have met another forest person who, after I told him about the other encounters I had, and after checking me out, gave me his name after I gave him mine. Knew and felt a presence walking beside me when going through the bush. When we first moved up there, we would lock van and place club on steering wheel when parked behind the house. Next morning, club behind driver's seat and van unlocked. Sure had locked everything up. So tried it again and then heard in my head, not need. Yeah, I thought not sure what type of people live in area. Locked it again with the club, and sure enough, the next morning, van unlocked and the club was still in lock position, laying on the floor behind the driver's seat. Okay, I get the point, I said. You'll protect me and my mate. No longer locked van at night. And told my contact if any of his children need a place to hide when in town, or when a human might be around, as the van was parked at the back of the house, or sometimes parked in a portable garage, unlocked of course, to just hide in the van as we kept the second and third down seats down in the floor. Totally forgot about being able to cloak. While at this address, heard some low growling coming from 2 sides of the backyard that was bush, plus a feeling of fear washing over me. Said, not going to work with me, and growled back loudly. Silence. A few months ago, my contact brought his mate, their 2 juveniles, and their baby to meet with me at our new place here in town that backs onto the bush. I feel so blessed they trust me and protect me when I'm out in the bush here. The only people I fear up here are hairless humans. Why these people have this anomaly, no idea. When I see Jesus, I'll ask him, since I keep these people in my weekly prayer list. Talking to another client last year on our way back from Timmins in van, explaining to them the time of knowing, what that was. They said to my wife, wish I knew if they heard me. Then I said to my wife, I wish I knew if they heard me. About 20 seconds later, something said to look at a portion of trees left off the west side of the roadway. An object came flying out from about 6 to 8 feet above the ground. Flies straight toward the front windshield. So it drifted left a bit, and a large pine cone about 10 plus inches kissed the front lower side of the windshield. I said in my heart, thanks for not throwing a rock. I was unable to replace the windshield again. Get up there, Steve. Tell them you want to meet face to face. Real true friends are so hard to come by. Yeah, I've seen that, the extreme hair anomaly in humans. I think it was in Mexico. There's a bunch of people related who were showing that. Pretty hairy, right? Face, whole 9 yards. Except for the eyes, bit of the nose, mouth. Now, there's quite a bit you just dumped on a huge audience, right? So, allegedly, you are speaking freely with these people. You call them your friends. They protect you. You offered them to hide in a van. I'm pretty certain, I think, that you would know as well that the last thing they would need from us is to hide in a van, right? Why do we say that? Because of the skills they have. Now, if this is true, what you just dropped on everyone, hold on a second here. What do I got going on here? What kind of a conversation? Oh, shit. Seriously? Oh, I'm still recording. The whole screen went blank there. All right, but what kind of a conversation have you had with these people? What do they look like? Give us a description. Have you ever had smooth, back and forth sentences, questions and answers, talk time, as in, what'd you do yesterday? What are you going to have for breakfast tomorrow? You guys eating in a group? You guys go off and eat different meals alone when you find it? What's going on? Where do you come from? Where do you go to? How is it that you can disappear? All sorts of shit, right? If you're friends with them and have this connection, and I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being openly honest, I'm just having a casual conversation. Please, tell us what's up. What kind of information do you have and knowledge that you could share with the people about these people if you are friends with them? Very interested to hear. Very interested to hear. All right, next. Please help is the title of this email. I found these tracks on the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico. No one can tell me what they are. I've seen you on the Nino show. Thanks, D. All right, D, let me have a looky. It's tough for me when I'm not there. It's in the snow. That looks potentially three-toed, the first photo. Now we have definite, what looks like claw. Looks to be a longer claw on the front left toe. Straight line tracks. Okay, straight line tracks. That's going to be the semi-red flag. Now the next photo is your hand by them. Those tracks are more stomping straight down and straight up. They're not really kicking forward too much on this next photo. Okay, what are they? Don't know. I don't know what those are. Definitely odd. Fair size. Straight line. Now, trying to picture rabbit jumping. I don't know. I don't think so. It looks fairly fresh. It looks to be crusted on top too, right? So, crusted snow on top. Rabbits usually run on top of crusted snow. Don't know. I don't know what those tracks are from. I'm guessing that's a three-toed track. It's not a rabbit. It's not a moose. It's not an elk. I can tell you that. It's not a deer. I can tell you that with confidence. So there you go. Right now, it is, and probably will remain, a mystery. Thanks for sending that in. But there you go. I'm a licensed trapper and professional hunting guide, and I don't know what they are. What's this? These are all recent emails we're reading today, you guys. Your last YouTube video by the river. Hello, Steve. I just finished watching a YouTube video. Quote, someone shot it in the leg. It was dragging its foot, end quote. Where you had a possible little big guy watching you while you were on your quad talking to us. And when you got off your quad because of the rain, I believe you looked directly at it, or just before you turned off the camera, as in it seemed that you turned your head and looked directly at it. I'm thinking you either saw it or at least felt its presence. Anyway, this little big guy was just off your left shoulder in the dark area on the other side of the creek, to where I was seeing its head, face, and both shoulders, where it was all black in color. I know it's no big deal now, but to have one in your video is outstanding, where that is pretty cool besides. We love what you're doing, and please keep the good work coming. We'll enjoy what we are learning by listening to your messages on YouTube. Thank you. From the old guy from Southern California, Richard. P.S. Most of the leg and foot injuries to these big guys are usually caused by them jumping out of trees, which can be in the neighborhood of 30 to 60 feet from the ground. Yes, that would kill us, but not them. Huh. I've been told by others that they have seen them jump off of cliffs of around 100 feet to the bottom of a creek bed. P.S. number 2. The time frame on this video is between 9 and 21 minutes 30 seconds. All right. Gotcha, man. I gotcha. I've felt their presence while reading emails I don't know how many times, and I just shrug it off. It's like, whatever. I know they're there. When people see them behind me, what do you get? What in reality, what am I going to do about it? Really, not much. I know they're there. I appreciate you the sharing that big time, sir. Please email us back more. All right, I'll be in touch with you shortly. Well, soon enough. As soon as I get through my chaos time of the year. Mark this is red. I think this thing's still recording. A little jiggly. Now, new information. Title this email. Steve, I realize that you don't promote other channels, but I strongly suggest you check out. All right. All right. I'll mark this as look into. I'll look into it. Okay. Next. This is titled, fairly long one. This might be the last one for today. I have to head back out to the coast today. This is titled Second Share. Hello, Steve. Kevin Emard here again. I decided to write back in about a few more encounters. One of them happened here in 2022. I was doing consultation for the place that I live, and I was checking out a new area that they were going to put in 2 lease sites and a road. This was in northern Alberta. I left my dad in the truck because I only had one set of snowshoes, and I started walking. I took my boat with me just in case I come across something that we could take back with us. Boat? Or your sled? But that's a different story. So I was roughly about 300, maybe 350 yards away from the truck in the bush. I was looking around, and I was checking out all the plants and trees and kicking snow off the way so I could see what the plants were on the ground. Then I had this weird feeling. I looked up, and there just big black being standing there with his back toward me, trying to blend in with a spruce tree. I estimated him to be 12 to 14 feet tall, probably just about as wide as a truck is. And then I thought to myself, I don't think these things travel alone. So I looked around to my right because I saw him on my left. So I looked around to the right, looked behind me, and then when I looked back, he was gone. So then I just decided I should probably let him know why I'm there. So I started talking and telling him, I'm here to look at the plants and trees. I'm not here for you. I don't want nothing to do with you. I just want to be left alone, and I'm going to continue doing my job. So as I was walking, probably another 50 yards further down, where this proposed road is supposed to be, and then they start throwing spruce cones at me. Excuse me. I don't know if this was they or just the one. So I kept telling him that what I'm up to. And I told him he should probably move your family out of this area because this is what the oil companies plan to do here. So I did all of that, and I didn't even bother to try to go see whether or not it left any tracks, because that would have made it think that I was going to track it, but I didn't want nothing to do with it. Then I had a job to do, and I was alone. So needless to say, I kind of hurried through the job that I needed to be doing. Then I went back to the truck and told my dad about what happened. He didn't act like there was anything strange about it or anything wrong. Just asked me what my reaction was. No, we're spiritual and we believe in the old native ways. I'm Métis, but I still practice the native culture. So after we left, and my dad was asking me questions, and I was answering them, but after seeing just the size of that creature, I could understand why and how they're able to catch animals to eat, because the one I saw was massive. No, he wasn't mean. He wasn't intimidating in any way, besides the fact that he was huge. And that's one story that happened. I've had 6 encounters in my life so far. I already told you about the one that when we were at the kids' survival camp, I guess you will call it, but I also have a couple while I was out gathering wood by myself. I've heard knocks. I've heard weird noises. One of the ones that sticks out the most was when I was with my family and we were gathering wood for our wood heating stove. I'd put a notch in a tree and I was doing a back cut, and I was just about at the point where the tree would start to fall over, and I had a wedge in there, and then I ran out of fuel in the snow, so I decided, okay. Sorry. I ran out of fuel in the saw, so I decided, okay. I'll have a little bit of a break here, and I told everyone to make sure to stay clear of that tree. So as we're sitting there having some lunch and some tea, then we started hearing knocks, and they were coming toward us. Everybody was asking, what's that? And I said, I think I know what that is, and if it is what I think it is, I don't want you guys here. So instead of us packing up, I went walking towards the tree that I had already cut into and was getting ready to fall. And then I started hitting the wedge into the tree, and it was making noise like a thumping noise. And then when a tree fell over, the knocking sounds were still there. I think you meant the tree that you were wedging. The knocking sounds were still there, but they were moving away from us. So the family started asking me what I thought it was. So I told them what I thought it was, which was a Bigfoot or a creature of the woods. You know, we call them bush people. I've also had a female holler at me in the winter, 2022. It was a little over 1.5 miles south of my house, and I was on my trap line, because I like to trap in the winter, and I had some screaming. Or there was a log over my trail, so I was cutting it off the way. So as I was cutting, then when I shut off the saw, they were screaming a little ways to my north. Now the bush is pretty thick, so I wasn't able to see anything, but I do know exactly what lynx sound like. We don't have bobcat here, but I do know what they sound like. And I also know what cougar sounds like when they're calling. This was none of those. A lady, but a little bit deeper voice, and the lungs in this thing were huge. They would have to have been huge because the length of that scream, I would have to scream or holler 3 times in a row in order to be able to keep up with the length of that. The only reason why I know these things exist is because I've seen 2 of them now in my life. I watch a channel so I get to know a little bit more about some of the interactions that people have with these beings. And I also know real stories from the old stuff from the elders. How are they say at these things can be extremely dangerous, right? How are they? There's a few typos here. We're making sense of it. How they say that these things can be extremely dangerous, right? And judging from what I'm listening to in your channel, F the ones with the red eyes. And the ones to be wary of. And I've talked to a few other people, and they told me about having a few encounters in this area, so I'm not the only one. A close friend of mine told me about the time he saw one walking down a cut line. And you thought it was one of his friends, and he tried to go catch up to it, but he couldn't. He couldn't. And then he went to his friend's place and asked him how come he was walking around. Not there, and his friend said I wasn't out there. Another story that I was told was of this guy that I know. He was on a horse riding around, and something started running around him and his horse. And his horse is freaking out. Excuse me. And then when he caught a glimpse of it, he said it resembled something that looked like a baboon, but was a lot bigger. Like way bigger. Would have been like 4 to 5 times bigger than a regular baboon, which would put it somewhere around the size of a bear. A big bear. I like to bow hunt. I hunt with traditional equipment, and I really appreciate what you're doing with your channel because I think that would help out a lot of people. I just wanted to share more experiences. I wasn't going to, but I figured what the hell, can't hurt, and it might help somebody. Anyway, keep up the channel. I'd love to see more hunting videos because I like watching those. And if I have any more, maybe I'll send them in, but then again, maybe I won't. I don't know. I have a couple pictures of footprints and things like that, but it doesn't really matter about pictures because unless you see the animal or see the being in person, it's kind of hard to believe and kind of hard to wrap your head around. Even though I've seen him, it's still hard for me to wrap my head around that, and I still wonder once in a while. Did I really see what I saw? But I know that I saw it anyway. Thanks. Man, I appreciate you sending that in. Couple typos, but who gives a shit? Doesn't matter. I really appreciate you sending that in, man. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you again in the future, all right? Please send more. Northern Alberta. I got to get a hold of those timber cruiser fellas in Northern Alberta. Remember, I almost went to go meet up with those guys, and then forest fire went ripping through there and screwed everything. And I haven't heard from those guys since. Excuse me. You know, there's hundreds of people I need to get a hold of through here. Man, it's so frustrating trying to do 3 lifetimes of things in 1 lifetime at times, right? Anyway, excuse me. Today is the day to hope. Okay, so this is a share I just received. Somebody asked me to share this. Today is the day to hope. Today is the day to post. Our son left home 3 years ago and flew out west to British Columbia. He kept very basic contact for a few months and then simply stopped. We have been looking since he left. I've had no help from police as nobody has had eyes on him. Since he landed in Vancouver, he may be in Victoria. He's an adult, and so they have put it off as he is on his journey, living his life, which very well may be. However, the complete loss of contact after a few months of testing is extremely out of character. So, now after doing what I can alone, I'm spreading the word. Please, if you know anyone in BC or Alberta, pass along his picture. Ask if they can share it in their local groups. Reach out through church and community networks, family, and friends. I know he's an adult, and he's fully capable of making his own life choices. I'm not about to fly out there, grab him by the arm, and insist he come home. I just need to know he is safe, happy, surrounded by people who genuinely care about him, and alive. I need to know my son is alive. If you've seen him or know him, please have him contact his family. We miss him dearly and need to hear from him and know all is well. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Okay, his name is Matthew. They have lost him for 3 years now. There's a number further home to call in, 613-430-9317, or the email is matthew.k.5787@gmail.com. He is loved and dearly missed. And here's his photo, all right, guys? Here's his photo. Maybe I might even put that on the thumbnail of the video, right? Get it seen by a lot of people if I can. He looks healthy and happy in that photo. I hopefully somebody knows of him, seen him somewhere, befriended him on his journey over here, and they just want to let mom know he's all right, you know? Nothing wrong with that. I hope that helped. Anyway, I'm going to cut her short. Got a lot to do. Gotta go pack up all my gear as usual, get all my jugs of fuel and fill them up, haul them out there. I've been hauling my own fuel all the way out there because if you buy it at the pumps at the marina out there, they charge you something like 30, almost 80 cents a liter more at times. Maybe it might be 60 cents right now, but anyways, they charge you 60, 80 cents a liter more for fuel on the water out there. So I got to fill up my jugs here, drive them out there, pack them all the way down the bank onto the frickin' dock, put them up on top of a couple of coolers, and I siphon them into the boat. I got to do all that today, get the gear ready for tomorrow. Sarah's driving out, dropping me off because I need to get some things done to my truck before I go up north. And she'll be driving my truck back to drop it off with mechanics. So I'll be stranded out there. Anyway, share my story at howtohunt.com. Get your stuff in. And again, the regular mail system is all over the map, sending stuff in the mail. Sarah said she just got another hate mail this morning from someone who said they're very disappointed because they had their hats came in a timely manner, but they're tracked and they go differently. And they ordered their stickers back in late June or something. So she doesn't blame them for being upset, but it's very, very frustrating when there's nothing she can do about it. And she didn't do it. She put it in regular mail, and that was going to Arizona, I think, this morning. She got the hate mail. But it is what it is. It's the regular mail system. It's an absolute nightmare at times, right? Anyway, don't forget, if you can, raise your boys to be men. You men out there, protect the children. You better start. You better start. Quit being an embarrassment and protect the children at all costs. You better do it. There you go. I won't rant it at all. Fishing available. We got a buddy of mine's got a tuna boat. It's available for tuna. September. I think he's got a few days open for that. That's a good one. You got to get 4 people together and do that one. And I will try to be back tomorrow. Please, I hope today, if we don't get many views today, it's because everybody's doing what they love to do today. I hope. Back later.